Circumstance had driven Dasaratha to an act that broke his heart and made him loathe himself. Rama could have refused and claimed his rights, but he set duty to his father above all else. And where Rama went, Sita and Lakshman went too. So they had all departed together, leaving the old king alone with his ruin. As the king lay in torment upon his bed of pain, Queen Kausalya came to him and spoke bitter, reproachful words. Her sorrow poured out in stinging accusations that pierced Dasaratha to the soul. Yet in the speaking of them, the heartbroken mother seemed to find some small, sad measure of relief. Proud of your kept promise and glad to have won young Kakeyi's favor, she cried, "Have you a single thought to spare for any other? You were all the world to me, and my God besides. My gladness in this life and my hope for the life to come. And you have cast me off. My son, the very light of my life, is wrenched from me and driven into exile. Was ever a woman left more desolate?" Kausalya lamented, "Old, helpless, without my lord's love or the sight of my only son. Yet you seem content that Kakeyi and Bharat are happy, like a fish that devours its own young. You have destroyed your very own child." Her words fell like blows, cut to the quick. The king turned to his wife even in his agony and clasped his hands in humble prayer. "Have pity on me, Kausalya," he moaned. "You have been gentle even to strangers. Show some compassion to your husband, who has always loved and honored you, and whose heart is now broken beyond all cure." The sight of her husband thus imploring her, and the memory of all their happier years, pierced the noble queen's heart. Overcome, she fell at his feet, begging his pardon for the cruel words that grief had wrung from her lips. And so the two broken souls wept together, joined by a common sorrow. As the leaden hours crept on, a memory long buried rose in the king's mind and deepened his anguish. He turned to Kausalya. "The fruit of one's deeds can never be escaped," he said. "I suffer now for a grievous sin committed long ago. Men do great evils for a moment's pleasure, and in time the price is paid. When I was young," he confessed, "I had a rare skill to shoot unseen targets, aiming by sound alone. For the mere pleasure of exercising this gift, I once killed an innocent man and committed a terrible sin. It was before you came to me. Listen, and I shall tell you that sorrowful tale. One night, I drove out in my chariot to hunt along the banks of the Saryu. Heavy rain had fallen, and the hill streams came down, stained with the deep colors of minerals and washed earth. No bird called. The whole forest lay as if asleep, and thick darkness covered the water where the wild beasts came down to drink. I meant to test my skill, to shoot by ear alone whatever came to drink. In the dense dark I waited, arrow ready. Then I heard a gurgling sound, just like an elephant drawing water. Without a moment's thought, I loosed my dart toward the sound, and like a venomous serpent, it hissed through the night and struck home. But then, to my horror, a human voice cried out through the dark, "Alas, I am slain." My blood froze. The voice wailed on, "Who is my enemy? I have harmed no one. Who would kill me as I filled my pitcher at the stream? And what will become of my old blind parents now, with no one left to tend them?" Struck with horror, I trembled in every limb, and the bow slipped from my hands. I stumbled toward the voice. And there, Upon the ground lay a young ascetic, his hair disheveled, his body covered in blood and earth, an overturned pitcher beside him. His eyes, fixed upon me, burned like fire. "O sinner who has killed me," he cried, "why did you aim at me while I drew water? My old blind parents wait, thirsty, in the ashram. All my penances and devotions are undone. They do not know I lie here stricken. And even if they knew, what could two blind and helpless souls do? Are you not the king of Kausalya?" he asked. "You who should protect me have slain me instead. Go yourself and tell my parents what you have done. Fall at their feet and beg forgiveness, or their anger will burn you to ashes. Take that path and go at once. But first, this arrow is agony. Draw it out and ease my pain." I knew that to pull the arrow free would end his pain and his life in a rush of blood. My hand refused the deed, and I stood helpless, not knowing what to do. Then the young ascetic spoke again, gently. "Do not hesitate. My mind is clear now and calm. Boldly draw it out and release my life." Gently, I drew the arrow out. The young ascetic shuddered, turned upon the ground, and heaved a final sigh. With his eyes still fixed upon me, he breathed his last. "It is this crime that pursues me now, and the agony of those blind parents, whom I robbed of their son, has come at last for me to bear." The aged Dasaratha fell silent a moment, the old wound bleeding afresh in his memory. Kausalya listened, her own grief mingling with his. The dying lamps of the chamber flickered, and it seemed as though the sorrow of that long-ago night had never truly left the king, but had only waited for its hour. He gazed at the shadows as though he could still see that riverbank, that picture, those burning eyes. The memory of the young ascetic's innocent face had haunted him through all his years of glory. Now at the end, it returned with terrible clarity, and he understood that the reckoning had come. For a sin long buried does not sleep forever. The wheel of karma turns slow, but sure, and what is sown must one day be reaped. Dasaratha, who had ruled 3 worlds in splendor, now saw plainly that his glory could not shield him from the fruit of that one dark and careless deed of his youth. The confession had drained the last of the king's strength, yet it had not eased his heart. The face of the wronged young hermit and the thought of the blind and helpless parents he had left bereaved pressed upon him without mercy. His grief for Rama and this ancient guilt now burned together as one flame. In the silence, Kausalya wept for her husband and for her banished son alike. She saw how deeply the old sin had gnawed at him, and how it had risen now to meet the sorrow of Rama's exile. 2 wounds, an age apart, had opened at once, and together they were more than the old king could bear. The king remembered, too, the last words of that grieving father long ago. Words spoken in unbearable anguish beside a funeral pyre. He had not understood them fully then. Now their meaning was terribly clear, and he knew that the curse laid upon him in that hour had at last found its mark. So the once mighty Dasaratha, conqueror of demons and friend of the gods, lay humbled by his own long-ago folly. The idle sport of a proud young hunter had, across the years, ripened into a sorrow that would claim his very life. Such is the strange and certain justice that governs the deeds of men. The night deepened, and the king's breathing grew labored. The tale was told, the burden of it laid bare at last. But confession could not undo the past. nor bring Rama back from the forest. All that remained was to wait for his son who would not come and for the death that surely would. Outside, Ayodhya slept uneasily, its streets still hushed with mourning for its exiled prince. Within the palace, an old king lay dying of a broken heart and an ancient guilt. The bright and prosperous reign that had blessed the land for so long was quietly, sorrowfully drawing toward its close. Thus did an idle moment's pride in a distant youth return to exact its terrible price. The arrow loosed in careless sport had, in the end, pierced the heart of the one who fired it. And as the lamps burned low in the royal chamber, the last hours of great Dasaratha began to slip away.